Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. The tension in Genoa City had reached a fever pitch as Victoria Newman's eyes blazed with fury and unyielding determination, the kind that only comes from someone who has been betrayed time and time again and refuses to see the same devastation inflicted on someone else. The moment she saw Claire standing in Holden's penthouse, carefree and unaware, Victoria's instincts kicked in like a missile, sharp and relentless, because she knew exactly what kind of danger Claire was walking into, though the young woman remained blissfully ignorant of the dark storm about to engulf her life. Holden had always seemed charming, sophisticated, and utterly devoted, the kind of man that most women would consider a dream come true, but Victoria had glimpsed the other side, the side no one else was allowed to see, the side where loyalty dissolved into secrecy and whispered lies, and betrayal became second nature. She had stumbled upon the evidence by accident, or maybe it was fate, a collection of emails, text messages, and photos that painted a picture so damning it would make the strongest-hearted person recoil. There was Holden, the man Claire thought she could trust implicitly, caught in a tangled web of deceit with someone who was not Claire, someone whose name Victoria could barely bring herself to speak, the sheer audacity of it fueling the fire in her veins. Each message was a dagger, each photograph a cruel reminder of how skillfully Holden had concealed the truth, a double life that would shatter Claire's heart if exposed the wrong way, and Victoria couldn't allow that to happen. She knew Claire had a streak of recklessness, a romantic innocence that made her vulnerable to manipulations and false promises, and Victoria, hardened by years of surviving her own betrayals, refused to stand idly by while another woman walked headlong into heartbreak. Victoria's voice trembled, not with fear, but with a barely contained storm of anger and concern, as she confronted Claire later that day, choosing the opportune moment in the sunlight-drenched living room of the Newman estate where the weight of truth could land without distraction. "Claire," she began, each syllable clipped, sharp as a whip, her piercing blue eyes locking onto the younger woman's with an intensity that made Claire instinctively step back. "You need to listen to me, and you need to listen carefully. I know about Holden. I know everything." The words fell like molten lava, scorching the air between them, and Claire, usually unshakable in her optimism and belief in people, froze, confusion and disbelief mingling across her features. "Victoria, what are you talking about?" she asked, her voice soft but cautious, sensing the gravity in Victoria's tone. But Victoria couldn't soften her delivery, there was no room for sugarcoating when the danger was this real, when the betrayal this deep could ruin someone as unsuspecting as Claire in a heartbeat. She stepped closer, lowering her voice but intensifying her gaze, creating an aura of urgency that Claire couldn't ignore. "Holden is not the man you think he is. He's living a lie, Claire. He's been unfaithful, deceitful, and manipulative, and you are in the crosshairs. I won't stand by and watch you get hurt the way I, and so many others, have been." The shock on Claire's face was unmistakable. She opened her mouth as if to protest, to deny, to argue, but Victoria raised a hand, stopping her mid-thought. "I don't want you to see him. Not now. Not ever, unless every last piece of this mess is exposed and settled. You need to protect yourself before it's too late. I'm warning you, Claire. This isn't a game. This is real life, and Holden's betrayal could devastate you." Victoria's ultimatum hung in the air like a thundercloud, heavy and ominous, and for the first time, Claire felt the fragile grip she had on her idealized view of Holden slipping, replaced by a creeping terror that maybe, just maybe, Victoria's warning wasn't just paranoia or overprotectiveness. The evidence Victoria had discovered was damning, but the magnitude of it, the secrecy, the clandestine meetings, the lies layered over lies, was almost incomprehensible to Claire, whose heart had been invested in the idea of Holden as a faithful, loving partner. Victoria could see the internal struggle, the battle between desire and logic, playing out across Claire's expressive features, and it only strengthened her resolve. She couldn't allow sentimentality or polite diplomacy to stand in the way of protecting Claire from the heartbreak that was hurtling toward her at a frightening speed. "I know you care for him," Victoria said, her tone softening ever so slightly, a flicker of empathy cutting through her righteous fury. "I know you think he's the one. But Claire, you have to see him for who he really is. before your heart shatters into pieces that may never fully heal. I'm telling you this as someone who's been through heartbreak, betrayal, and lies that cut deeper than anything you can imagine. Please, listen to me. The room seemed to shrink under the weight of Victoria's words. Claire's hands trembled slightly as she absorbed the revelation, the betrayal, the truth she never imagined she would have to face. Every loving memory she had built with Holden suddenly seemed fragile, suspect, and possibly false. Victoria watched her carefully, knowing that one wrong word could push Claire into denial, could make her lash out in defense of the man who had deceived her. Victoria, Claire began, her voice cracking, but Victoria interrupted gently but firmly. No, don't say anything yet. Just hear me out. I've seen what he's done. I've seen the lies, the secret life, the betrayal. And I won't let you walk blindly into that. Not you, not anyone. You deserve better, Claire. You deserve the truth before it's too late. There was a tremor of emotion in Victoria's voice now, a mixture of anger, sorrow, and the fierce protectiveness that only comes from truly caring about someone's well-being. Claire's mind raced, images of Holden flashing before her eyes, the charming dinners, the whispered promises, the tender moments that now felt tainted by the possibility of deception. Could someone so sweet, so attentive, be capable of such calculated infidelity? Victoria's insistence left little room for doubt. She had always been a woman of impeccable judgment, unafraid to confront uncomfortable truths, and the gravity in her tone, the clarity of her warning, made Claire realize that maybe, just maybe, she had been blinded by her own hope and desire. Victoria's ultimatum became even more chilling when she laid out the consequences of ignoring it: heartbreak, betrayal, public humiliation, and the slow, torturous realization that the man Claire loved was not the man she thought he was. I'm not asking, Claire. I'm telling you. Stop seeing Holden. Walk away. Protect yourself. There is no other option that ends well, Victoria said, her gaze piercing, her tone final. If you continue, you will regret it. I promise you. This isn't about control, it's about truth, survival, and sparing you a pain that I've endured myself. Claire's chest tightened as she digested the warning. The very foundation of her relationship with Holden felt unstable, like sand slipping through her fingers. The evidence Victoria had uncovered, though unseen by Claire at that moment, was so damning that even the strongest denials could not withstand it. Victoria, sensing Claire's hesitation, leaned closer, lowering her voice to a whisper that still carried the weight of a command. I know you want to believe the best in him, but you need to see the truth before it's too late. Please, trust me on this. I've watched too many people fall for men like Holden, and I won't let you be one of them. You are too precious, too intelligent, too strong to be blindsided like this. Every word was deliberate, calculated to penetrate the fog of denial and hope that clouded Claire's mind. Victoria knew that once the truth hit, there would be no turning back, and she was determined to ensure that Claire faced it armed with awareness rather than blind faith. As Victoria stepped back, allowing Claire a moment to breathe, the weight of her warning lingered, a palpable tension that neither of them could ignore. Claire's eyes filled with tears, a mixture of fear, sadness, and the dawning realization that her world was about to be upended. She wanted to argue, to cling to the man she loved, to dismiss Victoria's warning as overprotective paranoia, but deep down, she felt a shiver of fear, an instinctive understanding that Victoria's words were not born of malice but of experience and foresight. Victoria watched her carefully, heart aching for the younger woman but resolute in her mission. She knew that in Genoa City, secrets had a way of unraveling in the most public and painful ways imaginable, and she could not let Claire be caught in that storm unprepared. Victoria's protective nature, honed over years of surviving the cutthroat world of family, business, and personal betrayal, had reached its apex. She had delivered the warning, laid out the stakes, and now it was up to Claire to decide whether to heed it. Yet even as she stepped away, Victoria remained vigilant, a silent guardian poised to intervene if Holden's deception threatened to engulf Claire. The emotional intensity of the confrontation left both women drained but acutely aware of the fragile balance between love, trust, and betrayal. Claire's mind raced with questions, doubts, and the gnawing fear of what she might discover if she pursued Holden further. Victoria, ever the vigilant protector, had done everything within her power to shield her from heartbreak, but the path ahead remained treacherous, filled with uncertainty and emotional peril. In that moment, Victoria's warning crystallized into a chilling truth. Holden's infidelity was not just a private betrayal, it was a ticking time bomb that could destroy lives, hearts, and reputations if allowed to fester. Her ultimatum was clear, uncompromising, and impossible to ignore. Claire's innocence, her trusting nature, and her burgeoning love for Holden were all at risk, and Victoria's fierce determination to protect her was the only thing standing between her and devastation. The battle lines had been drawn, the stakes revealed, and the consequences of ignoring the warning became painfully apparent. The drama of Genoa City had reached a new peak, with secrets, lies, and betrayal converging in a single, explosive confrontation that would leave no heart untouched. And as Victoria turned to leave, her message echoing in the still air, Claire was left to grapple with the reality of a man she thought she knew, the betrayal that awaited, and the urgent, haunting warning that would shape every decision she made moving forward. The seconds that followed Victoria's ultimatum felt like hours for Claire, each tick of the clock hammering home the enormity of the revelation. She could feel her chest tightening, the air thick in her lungs, as though the truth itself had become a physical weight pressing down on her fragile heart. Holden's face, the charming, reassuring smile that had once been her anchor, flickered in her mind like a cruel mirage, now tainted by the shadow of betrayal. How could someone so devoted, so attentive, have been hiding a life filled with lies, deceit, and infidelity? The very thought made her stomach churn, yet part of her, a desperate, hopeful part, wanted to cling to the idea that Victoria was overreacting, that perhaps the evidence was misinterpreted, that maybe Holden had reasons that could explain everything. But the look in Victoria's eyes, that steely, unflinching gaze that had saved her from countless mistakes before, told her otherwise. This was not a warning born of paranoia, it was born of truth, and a truth so dangerous that it could obliterate her entire sense of security, trust, and love in one fell swoop. Claire's fingers trembled as she instinctively reached for her phone, thinking perhaps she could confront Holden directly, demand explanations, or at least hear his version of events. But deep down, she knew this was a path fraught with peril. If Holden's deceit was as thorough as Victoria suggested, any confrontation might provoke denial, anger, or further manipulation, leaving her even more vulnerable than she already was. Victoria's words reverberated in her mind, "Stop seeing him. Protect yourself. This isn't a game. This is real life, and Holden's betrayal could devastate you." Claire's heart ached as the realization settled in. For the first time, she felt the sting of true uncertainty, the gnawing fear that the person she loved could also be the person who would break her. Meanwhile, Victoria could not leave the room without seeing Claire's reaction. She paced slightly, her heels clicking against the polished floors, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. She had delivered the ultimatum, revealed the threat, and now she had to watch the delicate unfolding of Claire's understanding. Protecting someone in the midst of emotional chaos was never easy, it required patience, firmness, and a steely resolve that Victoria had honed over decades of surviving in the cutthroat Newman empire. She remembered all too well the crushing pain of misplaced trust, the devastation of discovering betrayal when it was too late. She could not, would not, allow Claire to suffer the same fate. "Claire," Victoria said again, her voice softer this time, though no less insistent. "I know you want to believe the best in him. You want to believe in love, in loyalty, in trust. I've wanted those things too, more than anything, but trust me when I say that the truth is more complicated. Holden is not the man you think he is. He has another life, a secret life, and that life does not include you. Not entirely. Not honestly." Victoria's words were deliberate, each phrase designed to pierce through denial and hope, to confront Claire with the stark reality she was desperately avoiding. Claire's mind spun as the full weight of Victoria's revelation hit her. She could feel a rising panic, a mix of grief, anger, and disbelief that made her chest tighten with each passing second. The memories she had cherished, the late-night dinners, the quiet conversations, the moments of laughter and intimacy, now felt tainted, corrupted by the shadow of infidelity. Every smile Holden had given her, every gentle touch, now came under scrutiny, each one a potential lie, a calculated manipulation designed to keep her blind to the truth. How could someone so seemingly devoted betray her in such a way? The thought made her stomach churn and her hands shake. Victoria, sensing the storm brewing inside Claire, stepped closer once more, her presence a grounding force in the whirlwind of confusion. You need to understand, Claire, that this is bigger than heartbreak. This is about your well-being, your self-respect, your future. You cannot let yourself be blinded by what you want to believe. I've seen it too many times, and I will not allow it to happen to you. Not now. Not ever. Her voice carried an intensity that was impossible to ignore, a combination of authority and empathy that left Claire no choice but to listen. Claire's eyes filled with tears, hot and unrelenting, as she tried to reconcile the man she thought she knew with the man Victoria was describing. Her mind raced with questions. How long has this been going on? Who else knows? How could he do this? And why? The answers, she feared, would be more devastating than she could bear. Victoria continued, relentless in her mission to protect her. Holden is cunning, Claire. He knows how to present the image you want to see, how to say the things you need to hear. But beneath the charm, there's deception, manipulation, and betrayal. I have proof. I've seen the evidence, and it's damning. You need to step back before you lose yourself entirely. Claire's hands trembled as she tried to steady her breathing, fighting the urge to collapse under the emotional weight of Victoria's words. She wanted to confront Holden, to demand answers, to reclaim some sense of control, but she also knew that Victoria's warning carried the force of experience, the kind that only comes from surviving betrayals that scar for a lifetime. Victoria. I don't know what to believe, Claire whispered, her voice trembling. I love him. I thought I knew him. I thought he was different. Victoria's expression softened, just slightly, as she placed a reassuring hand on Claire's shoulder. I know you do, Claire. And I know it hurts. But love does not make someone blind to betrayal. It does not erase the truth. You have to protect yourself, no matter how much you want to believe otherwise. I've been where you are, I've loved, I've trusted, and I've been hurt in ways I never imagined. You do not have to make the same mistake. The emotional intensity in the room was palpable. Claire could feel her resolve weakening, torn between the desire to believe in the man she loved and the undeniable reality that Victoria, with her unwavering judgment, was likely right. Her heart wanted Holden, but her mind, guided by Victoria's warning, demanded caution. She realized with a sinking feeling that she had been living in a bubble, blissfully unaware of the dangerous currents beneath the surface of her relationship. Victoria's warning was not just a protective measure, it was a call to action, a directive that demanded immediate attention. She knew that Holden's deception could escalate, that if left unchecked, it would result in a scandal that could destroy not only Claire's heart but also her reputation, her sense of self, and her trust in others. Claire, Victoria said, her voice firm and unwavering, you need to step back from Holden immediately. Cut contact. Stop seeing him. Until you know the full truth, until you can see him for who he really is, you cannot allow yourself to be vulnerable. Do you understand? Claire nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face, her mind still grappling with the shock of Victoria's revelation. She knew that complying with Victoria's warning would be difficult, that her emotions would scream for Holden, that the temptation to seek him out, to confront him, to demand explanations, would be almost irresistible. But deep down, she understood the wisdom in Victoria's ultimatum. It was a protective measure, a shield against a heartbreak that could destroy her completely. Victoria's presence, her unwavering vigilance, became a lifeline in the chaos of Claire's emotions. She continued to speak, outlining the stakes, the potential consequences, and the undeniable truth that Holden's infidelity was not a minor lapse but a pattern of deception that could devastate anyone who trusted him. You are too smart, too strong, too valuable to be blindsided like this. I will not let it happen. You deserve the truth before it's too late. And the truth is this, Holden is living a life that excludes honesty, fidelity, and loyalty to you. You need to step away before you are irreparably harmed. Claire's mind raced with conflicting thoughts and emotions. She wanted to argue, to cling to the hope that Victoria was mistaken, that Holden was still the man she thought he was. But the evidence Victoria had described, the certainty in her voice, and the intensity of her warning left little room for doubt. She realized, with a sinking heart, that she had been naive, that her love for Holden had blinded her to the signs, the subtle hints, and the inconsistencies that Victoria had observed. As the conversation drew to a close, Victoria's words left an indelible mark on Claire's psyche. She understood, finally, the seriousness of the situation, the magnitude of the betrayal, and the necessity of heeding the warning. She knew that moving forward without caution could result in heartbreak, scandal, and emotional devastation. Victoria's ultimatum had planted a seed of awareness, a recognition that love alone was not enough to shield her from deception, and that self-preservation required vigilance, discernment, and courage. The room seemed to echo with the weight of Victoria's warning, a resonant reminder that the path ahead was fraught with danger, uncertainty, and emotional peril. Claire's heart ached, but her mind, guided by Victoria's unwavering judgment, began to chart a path toward caution, reflection, and ultimately, survival. She realized that love, while powerful, must be tempered with awareness, and that trust, once broken, cannot be easily restored. Victoria, having delivered the warning, knew her job was far from over. She would continue to monitor the situation, ready to intervene if Holden attempted to manipulate or deceive further. She had drawn the line, set the boundary, and now it was up to Claire to navigate the treacherous waters of love, betrayal, and heartbreak with the knowledge, guidance, and protection Victoria had provided.